Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of October 23rd, 2024. For information on council meetings and how to participate, please visit everettwa.gov/city council. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin,
Excused.
Councilmember Toohey,
Here.
Councilmember Bader,
Here.
Councilmember Ryan,
Here.
Vice President Zarlingo,
Here.
Councilmember Vogely,
Here.
Councilmember Fossey,
Here.
President Schwab.
Here. Just to go over the agenda, for item 7 on our zoning discussion, I've just asked the council members if they have comments or questions or statements other than the zoning process itself. If we could do that during council comments, that would be good. And just save the item 7 items just specifically for the zoning changes itself. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Zarlingo to lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this time, I'd like Councilmember Bader to read the land acknowledgement.
The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohosha people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to welcome Chief DeRose, who will be introducing 2 new police officers.
Hello, Council. It's my pleasure to introduce 2 new police officers, our most recent graduates from the Police Academy, to you today. I've got both Jalen Rojas and Ben Weaver here today. We'll start with Officer Ben Weaver. Ben was born and raised in Snohomish County. He graduated from Snohomish High School in 1999. Prior to joining the Everett Police Department, Ben worked 23 years as part owner of a small medical equipment company out of Monroe. The business was sold in December of 2023, and Ben decided to pursue a second career in law enforcement so he could help people and be of a service to the community. Fortunate for us, Ben was guided to Everett PD over other police agencies by people he respects and trusts. Some of them are behind me today, to include a current EPD detective. Ben graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy October 10th and is eager to start his field training with us. He looks forward to being a part of the team and helping our community. Ben joins the EPD family with his wife Caitlin and their 2 beautiful daughters, Olive and Hazel. In his free time, Ben enjoys practicing martial arts, playing with his kids, and watching movies with his wife. I want to add a little bit that's not on the script here. There's a really interesting award that's given down at the Police Academy. Every police class gets surveyed by their classmates. The TAC officer asked them, imagine every police call that you would ever go to, from the worst fight to the saddest scene that you can imagine, to children that have been abused, to people that need help getting their cat out of the tree, you name it. And they asked the class, who would you want to be there with you on that call? Ben was chosen by his class for that Patrol Partner Award. And so I'm very proud of that. He is proud of it as well. And I'm excited to share that with you today. Yeah. Next, I'd like to introduce Jalen Rojas. Jalen was born in Tacoma and raised in Renton, where he graduated from Renton High School in 2016. Jalen then enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and served as a radio operator with the 2nd Battalion, 10th Marines at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for 4 years. After leaving the Marine Corps, Jalen moved back to Renton and earned an associate's degree of arts in business and is now pursuing his bachelor's degree from the University of Washington. Jalen missed being a part of a team of professionals working toward a greater good and knew he could fulfill the calling again as a police officer. He chose Everett PD because of the people he encountered and support he received during the hiring process. Jalen graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on October 10th. Now back at the department, he is excited to begin working alongside fellow officers and serving all of Everett's community members. During his free time, Jalen enjoys going on motorcycle rides, getting outside with his 2 dogs, and grabbing food with his dad. I present Officer Jalen Rojas and Officer Ben Weaver for swearing in.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept Jalen Rojas and Benjamin Weaver as the newest members of the Everett Police Department?
So moved. The motion to accept both police officers.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. You can do one name at a time. I, please state your name,
Jalen Rojas,
Benjamin Weaver,
do solemnly swear
do
do solemnly swear
that I am a citizen of the United States or a lawful permanent resident,
that I am a citizen of the United States or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Those brothers and uncles, you can tell they were related.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Hi, congratulations.
Thank
Your
you so much.
certificate should be next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
We need to get a better handshake.
Oh, I didn't see so.
We need to approve the minutes still.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
I've owned that part of my job. I like doing it. It's cool. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for October 16th, 2024.
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Seconded.
Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes, the mayor was unable to attend tonight, so on behalf of her, the message she was going to give to us, Jennifer, would you like to do that role? Sorry.
Yes, Mayor is sorry to not be here. She's attending a hosted and funded regional leadership forum that was planned for quite a while. Just 2 items, and it's not me that gets to deliver them. So last week, there were comments that were related more to the relocation effort with the occupants of the Waits Motel as opposed to the rezoning of the property. And so the mayor asked staff to provide an update about the Community Development Division's work with those individuals, and Community Support Manager Kelly Rourke is here to provide that information. So, here you go. All set.
Good evening, Council. I'm Kelly Rourke. I'm the Community Support Manager. I work in the Community Development Division. I supervise a dedicated team of professionals committed to compassionately serving those in need. Our city social workers provide vital support to all residents and visitors who find themselves in distress, including those affected by the Waits Motel relocation. Under the direction of Mayor Franklin, I was a part of the team that helped coordinate care for those who were residing at the Waits Motel. I hope it is understood that the Waits Motel was not a safe living environment for many of its residents and hadn't been for years, with issues ranging from non-functioning plumbing to rat infestations and a lack of heat. As a social worker bound to a code of ethics, it was my duty to advocate for action. My team collaborated multiple times per week with city administration, community development leadership, legal, and Common Street to provide input into case management and service delivery plans. The plans for each resident included the need to address their physical relocation, as well as supporting their own unique and personal needs. Each one of these individuals came with different circumstances and challenges, from income restrictions, management of personal belongings, eviction history, credit concerns, and criminal backgrounds. They all had varying levels of interest and motivation. Most importantly, the autonomy of choice was supported. Over the course of several months, my team was deployed on a regular basis to assist with support during medical emergencies, navigation through a social service or government systems, assistance with treatment access, and assistance with basic needs such as food, baby supplies, or transportation. This work is not easy. Those living at the Waits ranged from toddlers to seniors. They had complex lives, stories, and needs. And we all had a commitment to helping them find their path forward. We had moments of celebration when someone found new stability and regained hope for their future. We also experienced times of sorrow when someone lost their battle with addiction. My team was an integral part of caring for these individuals and respecting their opportunities and respecting their autonomous choices. Most of the individuals obtained new housing with the support that was provided, while some opted for a financial settlement so they could determine their own next steps. Regardless, my team stands available today to provide assistance if need arises. I'm grateful for the leadership and commitment that both Mayor Franklin and Council has shown me shown us in expanding our community support team to better address the needs of our many vulnerable residents. And I look forward to updating all of you in the future about the alternative response options we are developing alongside our police and fire departments to best address behavioral health needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, is Chief Drew still out, or he's right there? Oh, great. Next item, or next part of the update. Last week, a member of the public had questions about Andy's Place and Compass, and Chief DeRoos is here to provide that update.
Yeah, I wasn't here last week, I'm sorry, but I did watch the council meeting a few days later on demand on YouTube. And I saw the community members' comments, and I think it left maybe a little bit of a feeling that there hasn't been any enforcement or activity from the police department in and around the areas 3300 block Lombard. So I just want to talk, I'll throw some numbers at you here in a minute, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of our response and the activity that we've been involved in down in that neighborhood. I'll say that each part of our city comes with its own unique sets of challenges. I'm trying very carefully, sometimes certain streets get bad names for themselves, certain neighborhoods get bad names for themselves. And I'm very carefully trying not to try to sound like I'm disparaging that part of our community. As I'll talk about in a second, we have really good neighbors that live in these communities that are trying to work really hard to clean up their neighborhood. And we want to do what we can to support them in those efforts. This particular neighborhood has got a lot of factors in play, right? It's just a few blocks from the jail where people get released. There's some transitional housing in this neighborhood. There's a couple drug houses where I think landlords are not as present as they should be. We have Andy's Place, which deals with some of our most vulnerable that are dealing with some severe drug and mental health issues. And there's probably some other things. We're a block off Broadway there as well. There is a silver lining in this neighborhood too, and I've kind of already mentioned it. People like Jose Villalez, who spoke last week, some of the other residents that live there, Alexis and Katie, who I've dubbed the crime fighters for that neighborhood. They work really well with us in reporting stuff that's happening that they see outside their windows. The neighborhood leader, Andrea Tucker, and I talk all the time, and I had an opportunity to talk to most of them this week as I prepped for talking here at council. That level of relationship makes it a lot easier for our staff to go into these neighborhoods and decide how to surgically apply law enforcement, right? We talk a lot about broken windows theory, but it only works well when we transition after some of those activities occur, after we come in and proactively enforce in a neighborhood, so the people that live there can feel comfortable living in the place where they don't want to have to see some of the stuff that we're seeing in the 3300 block of Lombard. So that being said, let me talk a little bit about the programs that we've applied in this particular neighborhood. Some of these will sound like repeats because they are. They're something that we use very well across the city. Things like the AEP, the Area Emphasis Patrols. This is where we automatically populate a call for service on an officer's screen. So when they have discretionary time, it actually dispatches them into the area to provide extra proactive patrols. We've been doing that for 6 months in the 3300 block of Lombard. Sometimes that doesn't lead to a data point because sometimes just driving through the neighborhood is what it needs. Sometimes somebody sees a law enforcement officer and maybe they decide they're not going to stop there or commit a crime there or do something else that makes people that live in that neighborhood feel unsafe. So we've been doing that for 6 months. We have been doing need patrols in the north end, North Everett Emphasis Details. I always stumble with that. North Everett Emphasis Details. These are overtime patrols. So the first one, the AEPs, is officers that are working their normal shifts. So we've been spending overtime dollars working in these emphasis details, and we've asked, the North End captain, Kevin Fairchild, has asked that these officers spend time during those need patrols in and around the 3300 block of Lombard. We've also had and this is new, this was developed by officers down there, and it's worked really well. And it'll be some of the numbers I share with you in a minute. We've had our officers work alongside parking enforcement and our community bicycle unit, our co-ed unit. We've brought people in from the social workers to help support, and we've gone down into that area 4 weeks in a row and done parking enforcement. And I should probably pull up some of the numbers like I said, we've done this for 4 weeks. We had over 948 chalked vehicles that were potentially violating parking laws. Well, we had 20 red tags of vehicles which could eventually be towed if people don't move their cars. We had 230 parking citations that were issued. You had 19 impounded vehicles, some of which were stolen. We made 6 arrests, involved 52 officers. Over the course of those 4 weeks. Like I mentioned, those are patrol officers as well as parking enforcement officers and social workers. So these are some examples of some of the work that we've done down there. As a part of the buffer zone, which was, I think, came in May 1st. I know I've got it here in my notes somewhere, which I can't easily access, but as part of this area being a buffer zone, we've also been trying to measure the data what our officers are doing there proactively, as well as what we're doing as response to calls for service in and around the 3300 block, 33rd and Lombard. I've got some of those numbers too, just to throw some additional numbers at you. So from July through October, we responded to 225 community-initiated calls for service, so calls from in and around 33rd and Lombard. What we're trying to also do, right, this comes up every once in a while when we talk about buffer zones, is try to measure what's happening kind of on the periphery as well. We had 918 calls for service. I think that's a 2-block range around that same intersection. What I noticed when I looked at the data today was that the numbers have started going down. What we hope is when we give an area specific attention by law enforcement, that it starts to impact that, whatever that activity is, and hopefully make it go away completely. Sometimes it makes it go to other areas. But what I saw in September was looks like about 396 total calls, both self-initiated, community-initiated calls for service, as well as the calls for service that were on the periphery. And then a month later, that number goes down to about 250. So 395 to 250 calls. Now, these can be any types of calls, but when I start seeing those numbers go down, people that are calling 911, I think that's a good sign. Because of the challenges of the neighborhood, and maybe I'll end with this and see if there's any questions. Because of the challenges of this neighborhood, it's going to require constant attention by our staff, and it's certainly done in cooperation with our social workers. That gives them a lot more opportunity to take advantage of some of the programs that are available that our social workers know the most about. But partly based on the fact that we get such good response and feedback from the neighbors that live there, I continue to see us continuing to work there, and in partnership as well with the Compass Health, who has been a player at the table, a stakeholder at the table with us as well, that will continue to develop action plans and other things that will help, like I mentioned probably several times already, the neighbors and the community feel safe in this area of the city. Sorry, that was a lot. I don't even think I took a breath, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks, thanks, Chief. Can you also address, last week I had asked for some updates on SEPTED attention and improvements. So if you have any extra information about that, I'd
Yeah, I
appreciate
didn't purposely avoid talking about that. It was in my notes. I just knew I only had so much time. You know, when you talk about SEPTED, community or crime prevention through environmental design, there's all kinds of things that our experts, the people that have been trained on it, they'll look for. Mentioned by you, also mentioned in some of the emails I've looked at over the last couple months was lighting, in particular was lighting and tree trimming. Lighting's a pretty unique thing that I have to look into a little bit more. I know that when PUD provides lighting in an area, they provide it to a certain level, whatever that measurement is. And if people want more, the community can ask for it, but they end up getting charged for it. So I think that may be something that's possible in this neighborhood. It may be something that the neighbors feel would be better and be supported, will support maybe lessening some of the criminal activity that's occurring on the streets and in the alleys. But I just don't have all the answers for that. I wasn't able to track down exactly what that would mean as far as what PUD would do, what the timeline would be, and maybe most importantly, what that would cost the neighborhood. The tree trimming is another interesting one. SEPTED-wise, I think that our experts, one of them being Ben Breeden, who works in community development, thinks there probably are some areas that can be trimmed. The city's arborist believes that most of those trees are on private property and would be the responsibility of the property owners. So I don't know, I didn't have a chance to talk to Ben today, so I don't know if there's been a plan moving forward on where and how we can help support maybe some of the tree trimming. I think we're in that world where we want to limit some, how much we impact our tree canopy while also not setting ourselves up for failure because we're creating environments where people can hide. So it's not a non-answer completely, but it is something that I looked at a little bit today.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it's in my district, so I'm in the area quite a bit to, just kind of do my own eyes on the road type thing. So for the lighting situation, I had talked with Corey about it and brought it up about asking if there's room for more lighting or brighter lighting. And his response was that they're basically maxed out for what the traffic safety standards are for a residential road. So my wonder to the world is it might be meeting requirements for traffic safety, but it's not meeting requirements for public safety. So if there, since this isn't a buffer zone, if there can be an additional designation or an allowance for more light coverage for the area, then I think that would be helpful for neighbors. I'd heard that from a neighbor who had spoken with somebody at Andy's place that people in the area are well aware of where the dark pockets are around the block, and that's where they go to do behaviors that we don't necessarily want to see in our community. So I think that there is room for increased lighting. And then for the tree situation, a lot of the trees are pretty stressed out, so there's a lot of suckers that are growing from the bottom that are making it difficult for line of sight and for more shadows and whatnot. I think there's space here for our Block Watch program to do outreach to the property owners, to ask them about trimming up their trees and sharing the benefits of it. I see a lot of opportunities here for the Block Watch program to engage with the private property owners to make sure that they're aware of what the things that they can and should do on their private property to help with the public safety.
Could I mention something there? I don't want
Please.
to interrupt your flow, but the one of the partners, when I was supposed to mention it and I missed it in my notes, in all of this is code enforcement. They have been a great partner in helping us provide some levels of pressure to property owners that aren't meeting the city's requirements for some of that trimming. So I think that they can be a partner in doing exactly what you're talking about if we can find those specific addresses. And, you know, sometimes just a letter from them is enough to get to people, encourage people to maybe do some of that trimming.
Great. And then just for my I guess I have two more comments. Thank you for sharing the numbers about the different enforcement numbers. I have conflicted feelings about parking citations and towing of vehicles, because the neighbors there aren't rich. And to pay for a parking ticket or to pay to get your car out of impound is like a week's salary, and that's not how we help our neighbors get in a place of being stable and making stable choices. So
Can I respond to that one too?
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like it's a counterpoint going on here, but we did a lot of proactive notification to the neighborhood, the cars, and I don't know them, I didn't memorize them all, but a lot of these were cars that were coming into the neighborhood and creating environments where either drug activity was occurring or other criminal activity was occurring. Most of the vehicles we towed were not property owners in the area, but other people that maybe either had dumped cars there, like I think I mentioned, there was at least one stolen as well. Our goal in these proactive enforcements is not necessarily to tow cars. Andrea Tucker helped with some notifications along the email string for the neighbors there. And I'm pretty sure, and I always look over here to make sure I get confirmation, you can get parking passes if you live there online. It's pretty straightforward. So up to 2, I think, for residents and even a guest. So we are aware of that too. It's the last thing we want to do is create another stressor for people that live in that neighborhood when so much has been on their minds. But really good point, and we try to be mindful of that when we go into those neighborhoods.
Great, sounds like another outreach opportunity for our Block Watch program. And then I would like to request that maybe it's our Safe Communities Committee has a discussion, or maybe it's full council, since it is something full council I think should know, a discussion with the county sheriff about the release practices from the jail. Because I know that they do releases during the middle of the night, and that's not a safe time for anybody who's in a vulnerable place to be released on the streets of Everett, and they might not have a ride back to their home community, or just a different pathway out that back door that doesn't lead right back to the front door of the jail. So I'd love to have folks from corrections come to a council meeting to share more about ways that we can partner to make sure that folks exiting the jail are exiting to a safe place.
Sheriff Johnson was here tonight and kind of supporting a couple of our officers that were being sworn in. She's been a great friend and partner when it comes to just about anything that's occurring between our two responsibilities. I think we discussed this, it may not have been since she's taken over her new role, but I think we've discussed this with the jail before. Some of this is required by law, and that may be one of the conflicts. I think anytime we can discuss exit strategy, it's probably a good practice, and maybe that's where we can maybe spend some focus and some of our attention. But some of this is when people are authorized to be released, they get released. But maybe, if it's okay with you, before we bring them over here, allow me some time to have a discussion with her about that specific issue, and I'd be happy to report back.
Yeah, and I have a gazillion ideas and suggestions about that and partnership opportunities as well, so I'd appreciate
That sounds
being
like a
included.
lot, so.
Yeah,
we'll
I'll
take
I'll
them.
close my
Yeah.
comments. and
Okay,
this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. Thank you and thank you. It sounds like Everett PD and Block Watch and everybody is doing a lot of work together, and that sounds impressive, and I appreciate it. I'm wondering if we can have Compass Health CEO Tom Sebastian and possibly Compass Health PR persons Tom Kaczynski and Jackie Brophy join City Council to brief us of their establishment and how they're working with the police and neighbors to create a cohesive living environment, because I know you mentioned the establishment once. From what I've heard out in the world, they are not being good stewards of the community. And so possibly, and that doesn't really sound very inviting to bring them in, but here we are. King County low barriers, such as like Plymouth, have been good stewards, I've heard, by committing telephone communication to the front desk. And it sounds as if that has not been happening. So, I'm encouraging in public with names to bring them forward and really start working with you guys so that the whole entire community can get better. And I know you mentioned the DOC houses and the trap houses, and that is a community right there. So I'm glad that you know, and we can all know, but.
Yeah, we try to stay very aware, and, you know, some of these issues are citywide, but we're just obviously talking about this particular neighborhood, Port Gardner, and specifically 3300 block of Lombard. I did not have a chance to talk to Tom Sebastian today, but I did talk to Kevin Fairchild, our captain in the North End, who meets with them semi-regularly. They have developed a new committee that they're working, it's supposed to meet for the first time in November. They have been coming to these meetings. I think there's if you talk to each neighbor in this neighborhood, everybody's got a slightly different idea. Some of what I've heard in my discussions is more like a security company like you see like at Providence, where they provide, when you go into Providence, you feel like there's security there, where maybe the ones around this particular organization are not, they don't have the same procedures, right? And they may want to see them doing more. There's lots of things that might limit that, and you're right, I think it's that organization that needs to explain why they do things the way they do. But when we have asked them to be a part of discussions, they've been there. So I imagine they would want to come and explain to you what they've been doing.
And one more thing, just as a comment, even having police, drive by, I know that there's been a few deaths in the area and a few overdoses of people's pets. Because when they see police, they throw their drugs and then the pets get to eat them, and that's not fun for anybody. So keep your drugs on yourselves, people, I guess is what I have to say. Thank you.
Councilmember Tui, and then.
Yeah, just real quickly, I remember back when we were contemplating Claire's Place and visiting some of similar housing in Seattle and how important it was for that neighborhood management plan. And that was what really sold me on that place at the time. And so I think that's just super important, that communication. So hopefully as Compass Health gets back online with their building and gets in there, that they have a solid outreach neighborhood plan so that people know what to do 24/7 when something happens. So just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
I had Angie reach out to Compass Health, and I just want to give you a quick update. I don't know if that was covered, that they responded and said that they were going to launch a new neighborhood advocacy advisory group, which Mr. Villas had agreed to be a member of, and he was the one coming to speak. And then they talked about, the meetings that they have monthly with the police and everything like that, so.
That was the one I was trying to refer to. I didn't remember the name of it, but that was the one their first one's next month.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Sorry, I feel like that went long. but
No,
thank you.
it's good.
Yeah.
No, we got you in here so you could take care of business. Appreciate that. Okay, now it's time for public comment. We'll order, it seems, today. So, good evening, Angie. Do we have anyone to speak, or do we have any written comments to submit for the record?
Good evening, President Schwab. We have both. So starting with written comment, the following people wrote in about the Lombard property. Emily Simpson, Tom Magarese, Jason Shaler, Kent Peverly, Stephanie Larson, Krista Thorson, Nancy Hecht, Sarah Coomer, Bob and Jean Wool, Kari Quaz, Angela DeFilippo, Holly James, Rob Larson, and Shelley Whitcop, and these were all provided to council, legal, city clerk, and administration to be part of the record. And we have a few people in chambers. I will start with Leo, followed by Russell. Leo, if you could please come to the podium and state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak, and the mic is on.
My name is Leo. That's all you're going to get out of me. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning. I almost got on a plane and left Everett. Came this close. And when I leave Everett, it's going to be for good. This town's falling apart, you guys. This town is falling apart. And I'm going to raise hell like they did 60 years ago, because I was here and I watched them. Seems like you guys were not born and raised here. I'm third generation. People say to me, I got a phone call from the Philippines. They said, why aren't you here? I got a call from the Midwest. Why aren't you here? If you're so mad at the city of Everett, I'm going to back up. So I'm reading some Everett history. Everett was called Port Gardner. Some little fat rich kid named Everett got named Everett, and Colby never set foot on this shores of this. You know who laughs at the city of Everett? I thought I'd never do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm keyed up like a Swiss watch right now. Somebody said, where do you live? I go, Macotillo. Or Port Gardner, because actually Everett was named Port Gardner. Colby never set foot on this land, but his son was porking out. Didn't mean to bump that. Do you guys know the history of Everett? Any of you? Answer. Do you? You were born and raised here.
Council President, point of order. Isn't this a chance for a public comment rather than questioning the council members? Thanks.
Leo, could you
You
finish
can't
up
do
for
that?
us?
I
Could
don't
you just
know.
finish up
In the
for
old
us?
days, we used to throw pins at each other.
Yeah, just finish up. That'd be great.
Then on the other hand, now you're going to hear some good. I went on foot patrol with my new canine unit, and she came from Dublin, Ireland. Cost me a fortune, but it's going to be the last hurrah. I'm pushing 70. She goes, she's saying to me, what are we doing this for? She's a silver Labrador with blue eyes, unheard of. Everett doesn't even have a decent police squad anymore. I mean, a decent dog squad. She's going to be trained to kill German Shepherds, too. I'll see to it.
Thank you.
Next, if Russell could please come to the podium, followed by John. And please state your full name and city of residence, and your mic's on.
Thank you. Good evening. Russell Joe, from Master Builders of King and Snohomish Counties, where I serve as a government affairs manager for Snohomish County. Our offices are located in Bellevue on 116th Avenue. I'm here tonight to thank Mayor Franklin, Vice President Zarlingo, Councilmember Bader for attending our Housing Solutions Breakfast on October 17th in Bellevue. This evening, I've distributed 2 items to you that will hopefully make it up to you. The first is the informational tabletop piece from the event for all of you. The main focus of our event was to fit within the larger Rethink Housing Action Plan, which, as you know, sets a vision that includes increasing middle housing and the variety of housing options in the city. It has helpful information on ways to lower barriers, to allow more housing choices in your city as you consider infill and opportunities for other new projects. Please review it and let me know if you have any questions. Of note, I wanted to point out that the QR code inside the pamphlets will direct you to our housing implementation plan. And I've included a copy of that housing implementation plan for you as well. It has helpful tips as you consider legislation to accommodate and encourage middle housing in the city to meet your comprehensive planning targets in your 2044 comprehensive plan update. In closing, we want to compliment the city on the thoughtful and collaborative conversations over the last few months on the topic of housing that we've had with the code enforcement, planning staff, planning commission, and of course you. We'll continue to work with Everett on middle housing and the housing element of the comprehensive plan update as it moves forward to adoption. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if John could please come to the podium, followed by Ethan.
Who's up?
John.
John? You must be the only John that signed it.
And please state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, John Peoples, Everett, Washington. Good evening, council. Just the other day, I went to open up the local voter pamphlet, and much to my disappointment, I discovered that one of the 3 initiatives for the city of Everett was missing half of the argument pro-con. And it could very well have been an innocent mistake, and it could very well not have been. Either way, the voters of the city of Everett have been deprived of the opportunity to hear both sides of the issue. That's a real shame. So what I'd like to ask going forward is for the city council to think of a way to make a public statement, and I'd like to see the Everett municipal employee or Snohomish County municipal employee whose responsibility it is to provide the content to the printer to publish in the Everett Herald an explanation as to how this omission was able to be accomplished. Perhaps an explanation of who was supposed to be contacted to get the information and what the response was. So going forward for the future, it sure would be good to get both sides of the argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ethan, if you please come to the podium, followed by Alexis. Please state your,
Go ahead, Deputy
I'm
City
sorry.
Attorney Ramsey, would you like to speak?
Just as far as the voters pamphlet, the county was responsible for soliciting the committee for pro and con, and they did solicit at least one person on the con, but they didn't submit anything. But it's not something that the city does. So that's explanation of what happened there.
Thank you. Ethan?
Good evening, council. It's great to be back. Ethan Fall, Granite Falls, Washington. Wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but then I remembered I attended the stadium pre-job this morning, this afternoon, I guess. And to comment on that, the size of attendance from contractors, developers, architects, designers, all that it was the biggest one I've ever attended as far as pre-jobs go. So that's a good sign for Everett. I'm actually pretty pumped up, pretty stoked to see that stadium come to fruition. Big thank you to the Everett staffers. They've been putting a lot of work in, so this is good to see. Like in 10 years, they're like, I'm gonna jump on that Sound Transit. I'm gonna go down to Everett Station. go see a baseball game. Not a baseball fan myself, but I'll still go. And I think it's just great to interlink the city. Obviously, I would like to see the downtown project kick off there at that site. I mean, it's just a massive project, and it'd bring so much greatness to this city. And then I was also jazzed to hear that it'd be pretty much playing on a PLA, so I'm all pro PLA, as all you guys know. I just think it's great for workers, think it's great for the community, the citizens of Everett, and those that visit the city. So thank you, it's good to be back, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Alexis, if you could please come to the podium. And please state your full name, city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name's Alexis Boys and I live in Port Gardner. And I'm here today to talk about my experience living in the vicinity of Compass Health, the 3300 block. And I wanted to start by saying thank you so much to the people that I got to speak with this week. Thank you for listening. It means the world to me. And if anybody that I haven't talked to wants to talk to me, I'd love to talk to you too. Paula, it's $8 a month. $8 a month to add lighting to your house. So really, I am very grateful for the energy that our chief and everybody here puts into helping my block. You heard the numbers. It's a difficult place to live. The parking enforcement that's been happening the last month has really helped with the loitering for the purpose of drug use. There are so many people who prey on the people that live at Compass that they sit around and they just do drugs in their cars. And then I'm driving by and I see them overdosing, I see them slumped over. It's not the neighborhood necessarily being upset with addiction because we understand it. It's just hard to see every single day, right? So we've had a reasonable expectation of, the increased police, the increased fire, all of that. But like he said, it's just been so exceptional, the amount. If you can just imagine, every day, their fire alarms are going off, sometimes 3 and 4 times a day, right? And that comes with all the emergency vehicles, all the police vehicles, the noise that goes along with it. People are having to exit the building, so we've got 85 people standing across the street all the time. It's just a lot. They deserve better than that. All of us deserve better than that. So, regarding Compass, we have a lot of fear coming up with their new hospital that's going to be opening. As a neighborhood, we have not had the response from Compass that we would have expected. They gave us an email address. That email address goes to the PR person. It doesn't go to somebody who's at the front desk. There's no telephone number listed on their website for when the woman that quite regularly is having a mental health crisis, there's no one for us to call. There's no one that can help. And so this woman just continues to suffer every day, right? And these are our neighbors. We care. It's not about NIMBY or anything like that from the 3 of us that are sitting right here. It's about wanting people to be able to access the care that they need. So I've tried to make relationships with my neighbors there. And I talk to the security guards and I talk to the people that live there, and it's not okay in there. And I appreciate you asking Compass to show up here. I do. From the people that I see, they're talking about, and I've read every single police report, every single one, okay? There are assaults, there is theft, there is abuse, there is screaming at all hours. The things that go on in there is not quality of life. Compass needs to step up, right? The tenants that I've spoken to have felt misled by the coordinated entry program. I knew I was going to need 5 minutes, guys.
Go ahead and finish up.
Thank you. So the tenants that I've heard, had they known through the coordinated entry program is how they were placed there, they were misled. They didn't know. And everyone we've spoken to, with the exception of one person, have said that they would not live there or move there had they known what they were getting. When I speak to the security guards will talk about how they want to be more proactive, but they're told they can't be. Their job is made harder because they're not allowed to be more proactive in the neighborhood. So, We're reading articles from the Bellingham Herald, the Everett Herald, and ProPublica, and there are staff at multiple locations in different counties that have gone on strike because the pay and the work environments are not okay. Programs are already being cut. Family programs are being cut because they don't have the funding for it. But you're gonna put in a giant hospital on my corner and there's an expectation that it's just gonna magically work. It's not. It's supposed to create 150 new jobs, and in a sector of people who are already exhausted, and a brand new shiny building isn't gonna bring quality staff. It's just not. It's not enough of an incentive.
Okay, final thought?
Thank you. We need assurances from the city. I need you guys to be brave and bold, and I need you to ask for more. We need more housing like this. We need people to get help. But I also deserve to live in a neighborhood where I'm not pulling dead bodies out the back of my house. And I've done that. So can you please be brave and bold and ask for more? We need your help.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more person, but they want to speak during our public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now to council comments. Councilmember Tui.
Thank you, Alexis. Appreciated that, all your comments, and everybody that spoke tonight. Thank you. Just want to report on the Community Committee meeting that was held today at 5. We had an update on the flock safety cameras and heard more of the successes of that. And in the future, they're working on new generation of ones that might help with sound and loud cars and speeding and racing. That's exciting. We also had an update on our traffic safety cameras, the red light cameras. There's 7 out of the 11 are now up, and most of them are in that early phase where they're just giving out warnings. So we look forward probably in the next 6 months to get some report back on some real progress for that. And then the last thing we had was Julie Willie talked to us about a new buffer zone for a high-impact area around the Imagine Children's Museum in downtown Everett, and that will be implemented over the next couple of months. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. Just real quick, echoing what our guest, one of our speakers mentioned about Master Builders forum last week, and that was really great, exciting stuff in terms of housing, and I wish all of us could have been there, and hope you all get the chance to look at the materials, so good information. And then I went to Lowell neighborhood Monday night for Councilmember Ryan. Great meeting, good turnout as usual, mostly featuring a really good presentation by our county council member, Megan Dunn, just kind of filling in the constituents there about what the county's doing. So good information to have this past week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. Thank you to our public commenters this evening. I just want to make a quick comment to the public comment about the initiative. I just wanted to give a friendly reminder that it was a citizens initiative, so it wasn't something that the council had involvement in. So even though it is within the city of Everett, the city of Everett did not have any involvement with it. So as Ramsey had mentioned, it bypassed us because it didn't have the correct signature threshold for it to come through us. So I do believe, though, like this year, we have had a number of initiatives, which isn't something we've had in a while. So I do think that there can be process improvements to make sure that residents know that there's an opportunity to be more actively engaged. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. Thank you to Alexis and neighbors for your continued involvement, and I will be brave and bold. And I also serve on a few committees for federal advocacy committees and state advocacy committees for legislative agendas and whatnot. And I keep your comments in mind every time I'm at those meetings to share more about our region's need for behavioral health facilities, adequate staffing, workforce pipelines, and like the whole spectrum of needs with that. So I just wanted to thank you for being here today, and thank you again to Chief DeRoos for sharing the updates in the community and ways that we can all work together. This last week's been busy. On Friday, I attended the ice cream bar's ribbon cutting on Colby, and it was very fun, and I encourage everybody to go when you get a chance. Let's see, on Monday, the Port Gardner Neighborhood Association's moving their meetings to the third Monday, I don't even know what, third Monday of the month at Petrichor. So we had our first meeting there, and it was a great turnout, a fabulous space. We had a great presentation from the Snohomish Conservation District about their urban and community forest program. They had a massive grant, I believe, from the Department of Ecology for free trees for qualifying census tracts. So I would encourage people to go to their website to search if you could qualify for a tree-free property. If you have a little space out front that you'd love to put a tree there, they will send out somebody to survey the space, to take a look to see if it's safe to dig, to give a recommendation on a type of tree. So if you want a tree, go to Snohomish Conservation District and they'll help you out. Yesterday I virtually attended the Historic Commission meeting, and there was a great discussion about the comprehensive plan and comprehensive elements in the comp plan for historical preservation, and it was a fantastic conversation. Today I attended the State of the Station address down at the port, and it was a great turnout, and it was great to hear about the work that the Naval Station Everett's doing just to contribute to our local economy. Just in fiscal year 2024, the naval stations contributed $622 million to our regional economy, which is really impressive. And last, I hope to see everybody down at the port for Haunted Harbor on Friday or downtown trick-or-treating on Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, let me start by acknowledging the public comment and the question. I appreciate the eagle eye on our processes for proper public representation initiatives or whatever the elections are. So even if that was not a problem, and specifically in this case, I appreciate the skepticism. I've been to 4 significant meetings the past week or so, but in a nod to brevity, I'll only talk about a couple of those. The first one was last night's Pinehurst Beverly Park neighborhood meeting, and I was there in part for Gretchen and her presentation on the history of that area. Another lifetime resident joined in during that meeting, and it was really some rich and very personal description of that history that provides a kind of a sense of place for the people there. A sense of ownership, a sense of enthusiasm. That was really great stuff to hear. I'm happy to see that reinforced, especially as that area evolves and grows. Many of those areas just don't look anything like they used to. And also an excellent presentation and Q&A with 2 representatives from the Everett Police Department. They did a really great job of interacting with the community on a very warm and direct basis, very responsive, took some really good feedback, provided a lot of excellent information. I think that helps keep us connected to the people who see a side of our communities that we don't see every day. And also, that's an area that is also open to the free trees. That's one of the census tracts where free trees are possible. So that same group did a presentation to that Pinehurst Beverly Park meeting, I think it was about a month ago. And then today I represented Everett at the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee meeting. There were some ongoing discussions of what the Snohomish County Tomorrow will be, the organization, its function in the future, maybe expanding on its primary role of planning and land use. But the really more interesting and kind of surprising thing was the success of agriculture in Snohomish County. I was really surprised at that, given the kind of growth we've had. It seems like some aspects of the 1990s Growth Management Act trying to focus growth in the high growth areas and condense it some rather than let it sprawl into our agricultural areas has been working. In contrast to pretty much the rest of the country, several things that have been falling in the rest of the country are going here. They call this farm gate value. That's the value of the crops produced. The amount of cropland and the number of beginning farmers have all been increasing. So that's a really remarkable thing in a fast growth county. And painful as it sometimes is, may be testimony to some of the positive aspects of the Growth Management Act. But also, to do more, there are some barriers there to doing more with that additional production. And in terms of both encouraging local production and more consumption, the county has been planning a food and farming center in Everett that would, well, next to Everett, that would include production and distribution facilities, a commercial kitchen, a year-round indoor farmers market. So this would be convenient to producers and consumers, and the planned location is McCollum Park, the west end of McCollum Park, where there was a functional pool not not anymore, but in that area near a transit hub, park and ride, on a swift bus route on State Route 96 and close to Highway 5. So that's, it's not the main function of Snohomish County tomorrow, but it was an update today. I thought people would be happy to see that. That's a neat thing that'll increase the livability of our county and, of all things, keep agriculture healthier and healthier here in this very urban county. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions about the new buffer zone, and I'm sure that I'll be able to watch about it on YouTube after today. And when will the map be updated? Was a map shown for the perimeter of the buffer zone, and when will that be updated online?
The staff has 30 to 45 days to get that posted and launched. We did have a map, a paper version of it, so.
Thank you. And with the grants pass being overturned, and the city of Everett having the chapter 8.56 in our municipal code about camping and unlawful camping, was that brought up as to why we even need buffer zones anymore?
It was not brought up.
Okay. I don't have any specific questions about that right now, except for that one. And when does it go into effect? Is it like in effect right now?
No.
But 30 to 45 days-ish?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be more answers probably when I watch, maybe.
Yeah, and also feel free to ask me anytime.
Okay. Okay, so that's that. And then we got an email again from Judy Ramsey, and she is talking about parking in front of her business. And I really think that we need to get something done about downtown parking. And I'm sure everybody got her email. So I know that we've spoken about it before, and there's just really just teeny bits of really valid information about getting people to feel, businesses to feel welcome here in Everett, and also people with cars to feel welcome here in Everett. I mean, I would like more pedestrians to feel welcome, but it's still really valid to, so anyways, I'm bringing that up. I hope that every council member will read that email, and staff as well, because, well, I'll have to send it to you because it just went to DL Council. So there's that. And I think as it pertains to, I don't remember the item number, but the 1301 Lombard, I did put in another thing because I was reading, I know you said to bring comments, but I think this has to do with the actual, like, rezone. So I think I'll wait for that part. Anyways, I brought more comments to be put into the record. And I also attended the TAC, the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, and had a really great conversation about, what's it called? LEC, that's not it. Housing, I'll just say housing, and I'll get more about that later. So thank you also to the folks that spoke, and I hope that we can get some answers for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
Thank you so much. I have a few things. With the parking, I had reached out previously and have been asking about repeatedly to several different folks at the city about the concept of having a monthly parking permit for downtown to help businesses and even potentially staff, and that to be a potential, revenue option, but also something for folks to mitigate some of the complaints we've had. And I did reach out again, and I heard from Templeman that he is looking into it and has assigned the traffic engineer department to explore it, and he will get back to us. So We hear you. There's a lot of people asking about the possibility of this, and so just know that we appreciate squeaky wheels. Some of us do. First off, I really wanted to say congratulations to our two new officers, Officer Weaver and Rojas. I just thank you for your service and wanting to serve Everett. Yeah, just really excited about them. With the public comment, Ethan, there you go. Also excited about the stadium, and it is something where I appreciate how they are being so thoughtful and intentional in looking at this, making sure that they're addressing concerns with making sure that we are not putting an extra burden on taxpayers of the city, and finding ways to go about it where we're also supporting workers and the people who work in this city, who are oftentimes residents as well. So I'm very excited in the direction that this is starting to go. So, and plus soccer. So adding that in helps. With the Compass Health, if you stick around, would love to chat with you briefly afterwards. But hearing about some of and seeing emails coming in about the voter pamphlet stuff, and it seems to be some confusion because there's so much on the ballot. I don't know if there would be a possibility for a very brief educational thing next meeting or something where legal could just be like, hey, these are the things on the ballot. This is not the city, and this is where it falls into the purview of X, or this is a citizen initiative, kind of a brief explanation. Is that a possibility? Because I do hear a lot of confusion, and there are people writing in, and what you had said earlier with that clarification, can we just do that for what's there, since this is kind of pertinent in the timing?
Yeah, we could certainly do that. The council is allowed to take a position on it if it's an open meeting, which means that I at least can brief it whether or not you actually want to take a position on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could do that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that public education part just might be really helpful and valuable, so people know where, if they want to change something, where that lands and whether that lands in our purview or elsewhere. That's always helpful to know if people want to see things done better or done differently. The next meeting midday, which I think you're probably going to talk about how the schedule for that. Events.
12:30, let's keep repeating, 12:30.
12:30 next week.
Next Wednesday.
Is it 12:30 next week?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's 12:30 next week? Okay, I hear it's 12:30 is next week.
That's 4 times for the record.
Is that next week at 12:30?
Yeah, next week, 12:30. So this week was Fusion Week. The governor was up here talking at the Everett Community College. Our own mayor, Cassie Franklin, also had a nice, friendly, welcoming speech there. And that's kind of exciting for the new future of kind of some of the clean energy efforts, and Everett just being such an amazing place for innovative business. And that's kind of exciting to see us over time diversify our economy here. I was also at the ice cream opening, and they have a child space there and beer. So the ice cream bar, I was briefly there, but we are definitely going to go back. And today I also saw the mayor there and Councilmember Zarlingo at Congressman Rick Larson's event. He was over at the police precinct talking about his 4 bills that he's bringing up to with collaboration with the city to address the opioid crisis. So very excited about what's to come with that. This weekend, tree planting at Wiggum's Hollow Park at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Council next week is going to be at 12:30. Last thing on the community safe community meeting that we attended, there was some really interesting data, so I recommend people go back and actually listen to that, because they talked about some of the upcoming infraction enforcement is going to be active. So instead of warnings for some of the traffic cameras and things like that out there, there are now going to be infractions on dates coming up. So it's helpful for y'all to know that some of those are switching over. I didn't write down the specific dates, but if you watch that video, you can see it. They also said some really interesting information about what the impact of some of those cameras have done in helping on report on missing people, helping to report there's been multiple stolen vehicles that have been held, like 2 missing persons, and then they found a murder suspect all through this whole entire new block cameras and whatnot. So it's been really impactful, it sounds like, so far in helping with our police force. And I think it boils down to if you steal a car, don't do it in Everett, don't drive in Everett with stolen cars. So that's it.
Okay, well, thank you. Not to repeat much, I just had a few things I'd like to add in. One thing, I just want to make sure that we know that the design build committee tour that was today, they actually did both sites. So we still haven't committed to either project. And I heard soccer. Soccer is one of the key components of the downtown site if we decide to go there. So I appreciate the comments on that. I too am excited about the final decision on that. Just real briefly on the neighborhoods surrounding the Compass Health. It's one of the reasons why I'm here is because of the engagement of the neighbors in every part of our city is absolutely amazing. So thank you, and I want to encourage you and your group to still be engaged. Sometimes the things move slow, but we have an excellent police department and a staff and a council that listens and hears. So thank you. So I encourage all of you to continue to stay engaged. And then also, I just a quick comment about the voting process. That is purely on the auditor's hands on this particular one. For our initiatives that we did for the city, we were promoting both sides of the arguments because that came from council. So just wanted to add that. Also, I attended the View Ridge Madison neighborhood group, and it's always great to see new people. And so we had quite a few new people that visited, and they all came because they wanted to know what we were doing about the traffic speeds in the neighborhood. And so unfortunately, when those were spoken, everyone in the room kind of chuckled a little bit because we've been talking about it for many years now. So I just want to express a little frustration on behalf of the neighbors that I want to get some movement. I know we're going to be talking about our goals for next year in our upcoming retreat. I'd sure like to see that on our process. Yeah. Councilman Ryan.
Thank you for that. It reminded me that I also promised the Port Gardner neighborhood that I would pass along their frustrations and concerns about traffic speed and noise that many of them brought up on Monday. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, and also then, just a reminder that at 12:30 next Wednesday, we'll be meeting here online, and you will be able to attend in public if you want. So hopefully that will work out for staff. I know there'll be a slight adjustment, and we'll hopefully keep making announcements. And we're saying it for ourselves, by the way. We think that our neighbors are quite smart. We're the ones that are worried about not being here on time. So, okay, anyway, not really, but kind of.
And sorry, is it here on time or online on time?
We have the choice. It's
Council
hybrid.
members have a choice.
Yep, and the public can also attend here. And also, thank you. All right.
What time again?
Okay. All right, so moving right along, administrative update. Do you have more?
It's one sentence.
Okay.
I'll make it one sentence long. Councilmember Ryan and Councilmember Tui brought forward item 4, the wage theft ordinance. That will require a minor change in staff procedures, but we're supportive of the move, appreciative of the effort to support workers in our community. So that's it.
Okay, and then on to our Deputy City Attorney, Ramsey Rammerman.
I will be having some comments when we get to item number 7 on the weights, but for now I have no other comments and no executive session tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to our 3 consent items. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Make
Oh,
a
what's that?
motion. I make a
Oh,
motion
boy.
to accept
You
the
know-
3 consent.
Yeah, okay.
Councilmember Ryan, second.
Thank you. So a motion and seconds, and now we can vote.
Now I'm paying
All right.
attention. Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 4. First reading, I'll read in the record, Council Bill 2410-28, first reading, adopt an ordinance relating to changes in the City of Everett's procurement policy regarding contractors and service providers who have engaged in wage theft. Third and final reading is November 6, 2024. And before we go to, I guess there will be no motion, but I would like to ask for a briefing from Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you, Council President. Earlier this year, I made a motion to add a section to our city's procurement policy which bars any contractor who has willfully engaged in wage theft from being able to contract with the City of Everett for 5 years from the date of infraction. And I'm proud to present the final draft today for its first reading. Wage theft is when an employee does not receive compensation for the work that they have provided. Sometimes it's in the form of stolen tips, uncompensated overtime, or asking an employee to work after they've clocked out for the day, and many other ways. And in some cases, it's an honest mistake and can be rectified through the Department of Labor and Industries. But in other egregious and predatory cases, it's purposeful and intentional, and upon investigation by the Department of Labor and Industries, it can be considered as willful wage theft, which is an elevated infraction. The City of Everett has a proud history as a working-class, no-nonsense community, and in this tough economy and in our city's tight budget, it's important that we make sure that people who contract on city contracts receive the wages that they have rightfully earned from their contractor. The city's current procurement process for a public work contract is to solicit bids from responsible bidders as defined by the revised Code of Washington. Bidders are then required to fill out a bid sheet with the city where they indicate if they do or do not qualify as a responsible bidder, which includes not having engaged in willful wage theft in the past 3 years. This ordinance will build on that and strengthen our wage theft policies for city contracts to send a strong message to any contractor out there that looks to do business with the city that we will not tolerate unscrupulous contractors who purposefully steal from their employees. This ordinance will do 3 things. Number 1, it will increase the debarment period from 3 to 5 years. Number 2, it will require staff to verify that the contractor does not have any willful wage theft violations through an easy search on the Department of Labor and Industries violations website. And number 3, it will require similar verification for any non-public work service contracts, AKA professional service agreements, over $10,000. This amount is the threshold for when the procurement division is involved in a procurement, so it centralizes the process for looking this up and verifying. And additionally, in the weeds a little bit more, PSAs under $10,000 are usually artists or authors or other sole proprietors who don't have employees anyways. These processes and the $10,000 threshold have all been agreed upon by staff and departments. The mayor has also indicated her support for this measure. Thank you, Councilmember Tui, for being my second for this initial motion, and thank you to Attorney Tim Benedict for answering my gazillion questions, working with staff, and providing extra drafts when needed. And thank you to my colleagues as well for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for Councilman Ryan? Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, maybe 2 or 3. So I'm trying to grasp how this is different than the state's current law. If you can kind of highlight, and maybe you did, but I was trying to keep track of what was different about this versus what the state does.
Sure. So the state's procurement policy has a debarment period of 3 years, so this would increase it up to 5. And we would also add the extra requirement for our staff to verify that they're not on the Department of Labor and Industries naughty list. So at this point, it's a self-certification that they aren't on that list, but in my opinion, if they're egregious enough to engage in willful wage theft, then they're also possibly going to lie about it to make sure that they can get a contract.
Interesting, yeah. Has the legislature refused to act to tighten this up, or do we know where they're at? Because I assume the legislature would be pretty friendly to tightening up the state wage theft law.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the initial law of the three-year debarment was enacted in 2017. So I think that was the step to tighten it up. I think before that, it was a little bit more loose on requirements. So the three-year requirement that came forth in 2017 was the tightening up.
And then one more question. Does the data show there are more violations in Everett than other places across the state, or is there some data that shows that Everett's a particular hotbed as opposed to other places across the state?
Sure, I'd be happy to look into it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Vogely?
Not a question. I just want to commend Council President Schwab for allowing this to happen and commend Council Member Ryan for bringing forward something and having a presentation and just being allowed to even let that go through. That is like one of the biggest, it's not even my moment. So I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, this is our first and final reading, and we'll have two more chances.
First and final.
Oh, I'm sorry. First, it's our first of three. Okay, that's my second mistake tonight. All right. All right. All right, so now moving on to item number 5. Council Bill 2410-29, first reading, adopt the amendment to ordinance 3196-10, International Property Maintenance Code, EMC 16.09.010. A third and final reading, like the last item, November 6, 2024. And so do we have any questions at this point? Okay. On to our briefing item, item number 6, adoption of the updated 2024 Hazard Mitigation Plan. Jennifer.
Yes, we have Emergency Management Director Jim Sandy here to provide a briefing.
Good evening, Council. This briefing is in reference to the 2024 Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Thank you.
So the plan scope, the first slide you see here details basically what is the Hazard Mitigation Plan. And the Hazard Mitigation Plan is a planned approach that helps communities reduce the impacts of disasters on people, property, and the environment. The framework we're operating under and the intent is for communities to understand and reduce their vulnerability to natural hazards. The why question is, are we updating the 2018 plan? Is that updated plans are required for certain grant and federal disaster funding, and city adoption is required. Upon adoption, the plan is good for 5 years from FEMA. Some background on the update. We enlisted a service provider in June of last year, and the update started, plan work. Team kickoff was held in September. There were 60-plus planning members and stakeholders involved in the effort. There was more of a core planning team of around 5, and then additional stakeholders that participated in the update. March of this year, the draft was completed. It was available for public review, and that included the presentation of risk, which ranked the hazard and detailed some maps and so on and so forth. In April, the draft plan was submitted for state and FEMA review. The state of Washington has to review and concur to make sure it syncs with the state enhanced hazard mitigation plan. In May, the state completed review. And in September of this year, last month, FEMA approved the plan pending adoption. We'd hoped to get the plan approved by around July from FEMA. That took a couple extra months. The planning team had the following goals throughout at the outset of the planning process. Pretty standard, and those goals carried over for the most part from the 2018 update. Community outreach included Council of Neighborhoods, Safe Community Committee briefing, which was held in May of this year. CERT, we did a survey. We created a website. All the plan documentation is on the website. We will be keeping that website, a web page rather, with all the plan information on it. There's a plan maintenance piece that we will be completing after this is approved. And so all of everything that we do going forward will be maintained on the web page. We did information sharing through a newsletter, news release, 2 of them, one at the outset and one when the draft plan was released for comment, as well as social media. So as we looked at risk and vulnerability, the planning team in the process, we went kind of through a 3-step process. And the first one was to identify hazards of concern, develop hazard profiles. The second was to assess vulnerability, and that includes property and population exposed to the identified risks. And then a risk analysis piece, which was we analyzed the risk to include magnitude, likelihood of the harm actually occurring. The planning team profiled and assessed the following hazards. Hazardous materials was not profiled separately, as it was incorporated into each one of the other hazards as a kind of addendum. I should also add severe weather includes a number of different weather-related hazards, hail, strong winds, atmospheric. There are a couple others included within that severe weather hazard. The second main part of the hazard mitigation plan update is to develop mitigation strategies. And those are strategies that a jurisdiction uses to reduce future impacts from a disaster. Some city initiatives that we looked at and that were incorporated are up there on the screen. For bullet 2 there under city initiatives, implement water resiliency study recommendations. We carried forward a number of initiatives from the 2018 plan update. And so one area where a status update was made would be under that bullet 2, and that would be the Reservoir 3 replacement project. For the last bullet under city initiatives, improve waterfront public safety response capabilities. One area that has been worked on under that would be the fire department has received an oil spill response grant recently, and that includes the purchase of 2 vessels, 14.5-foot inflatable vessels, as well as oil boom response capabilities. So those are some of the initiatives that were developed and that we're making progress towards. And again, a lot of those initiatives were carried forward from the 2018 plan update. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Zarlingo.
Just one, is there any major course change from the previous plans?
No, not substantive as far as anything major. I mean, earthquake's still our #1 ranked hazard, and the rankings were roughly the same as the 2018 update.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. Jim, good presentation, and I don't know if we recall, but back in May, I think when you briefed the committee, that incident on I-5 with the shooting had just occurred, and shutting down I-5 for, I think, 8+ hours, and I think that really revealed to us what would probably happen in a very serious natural disaster, but I think it also revealed how unprepared we are to help people, especially including people who don't live in Everett, get to where they need to go or take alternative action. And so, I think, I don't think this plan was supposed to address that, but I would call that out as something that I think we need to be better prepared for, because obviously that impacted our residents, even though they didn't need to get north or east, but it really revealed a plan where, I mean, if there had been an earthquake that took the bridges down entirely, what will we tell people to do for the next 2 or 3 days who needed to get north or east, et cetera. So, and it wasn't looking for a comment, but feel free, but I just wanted to point that out as kind of something that lined up with our initial briefing.
Point taken, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bowley.
Thank you for that reminder, and I don't know, Councilmember Bader, I don't know if this is in the presentation that you just gave, but speaking of highways and people killing themselves on them and like jumping off the 526, I know that it's a really terrible thing to talk about. So is part of this plan have information about what to do and how to respond to those kinds of disasters?
Its focus is natural hazards. It's a natural hazards focused.
So like, I'm sorry, but now I'm just gonna, this is terrible, but I've now had two friends that, and I think biohazard is a natural hazard, and having to drive over like pieces of hands and fingers when somebody has done what they do. It's traumatic, and it's definitely, I mean, I guess if it gets on the bottom of your car wheels and it's biohazard, you can take that stuff home, and now I'm just being gross, but it's out there, and there's trauma involved, and it is hazardous. And if cars have to drive over the hazards, and then think about it later, and then have weirdo comments in public by yours truly, when might that be something that is part of a hazard mitigation plan? And who would one talk to about that?
Well, I guess we annually plan to look at the plan and perform some updating. So I can certainly look at that point.
I'll just say it was
So-
good on I-5 that all of the lanes were closed, where I think it could have been different on 526 had all of the lanes been closed and not just one way. I think that's where so that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two questions. Are we progressing in our tsunami planning and response?
Yes, for example, we are hooked or signed up with NWS Chat, which is a weather service briefing platform that can quickly notify personnel in the event of a tsunami. It has the tsunami warning I forget the acronym, in there. So we have signage, evacuation signage that we're still in process of getting placed down by the waterfront. I'm not quite sure where that's at, but I will certainly look into that. So there is some evacuation signage that we have available, to my understanding, to be put in place.
Does that include outreach plan too?
It does not directly include an outreach plan. For example, the comprehensive emergency management plan is due to be updated next year, starting the process. So there's a tsunami annex within that plan. So we can certainly look at, would be a point in time that we would look at updating some of those processes within that, the comprehensive emergency management plan.
Thank you. And then I saw on the slide there about a fiber optic loop.
Yes.
Are you talking within the city itself?
Yeah, so it's still dependent on funding, but IT is still hopeful to develop a loop to include the South Precinct / EOC.
Okay.
That was one of the developed initiatives.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Jennifer, anything else on this item? Okay.
Council President, do you need a motion on this one?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll move adoption of the 2024 Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, at this time, is there any request for break from the,
Is that an option?
yes, I'm offering,
I would gladly appreciate a 3-minute recess.
okay, let's start up at 8:15. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. We're going to begin with a third and final reading. I'll read the ordinance one more time. We'll have a short briefing, and then we'll open for public hearing. So item number 7, Council Bill 2409-24, third and final reading, adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map for 1301 Lombard Avenue.
Yes.
Time for
Planning
briefing.
Director York James Watchda has just a brief reminder and recap to kick things off.
Okay.
Exactly it. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Council President. Council, good evening. I'm York Stevens Watchda, Planning Director. Quick recap of the briefing that we provided on October 7th. This is a site-specific rezone initiated by the city this summer for 1301 Lombard, a 0.55 acre parcel at the southeast corner of 13th and Lombard, the former location of the Waits Motel. The site is at present vacant, cleared of buildings, fenced off, and owned by the city of Everett. The existing zoning is R2, or single-family detached medium density with a 28-foot height limit. The proposal would rezone the property to neighborhood business with a 3-floor height limit. To supplement the standard development regulations for the NB neighborhood business zone, staff have prepared a property disposition resolution and draft agreement that would restrict development to a townhouse project with a maximum of 16 homes with pitched roofs and windows facing Lombard Avenue being multi-paned, or more specifically, double-hung windows with a multi-paned upper sash. We anticipate bringing the surplus and disposition resolution to the council next week, 12:30, I've been told. This is a quasi-judicial review 3B process under section 1502-080 of Everett Municipal Code. Thank you, council members, for helping fill out the formal record for this project, which is available on the Planning Department webpage. I issued a determination of non-significance under the State Environmental Policy Act for the proposal in September, and the hearing examiner held a hearing and issued a recommendation to approve the rezone in September as well. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Jennifer, do we have anything more? How about from our Deputy City Attorney? Thank you.
Thank you. As noted, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and part of that is disclosing any external contacts that you've had outside of this hearing. We've gone through on the emails, and those are available on the website. But I just wanted to confirm with council members that if you have any additional disclosures of oral conversations that you've had regarding this rezone, that you want to put on the record here. So I was just, as I noted earlier in my email, I'm going to go through each council member just to confirm if you have anything you want to share. So starting with Councilmember Toohey.
No, I do not.
Councilmember Bader.
Nothing additional, thanks.
Councilmember Ryan.
Other than the emails, which have already been discovered, not discovered, but like they were
Yes.
being hidden.
And
but-
disclosed, yes.
Disclosed, thank you, that's a much better term. I do not have any additional conversations to provide.
Thank you. Councilmember Zerlingo.
Nothing additional from me, please.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes, I happen to be reading on Nextdoor, which I hardly ever do because there's so much yuck on there. But I was reading about some people discussing this particular topic, and so I just have to say, I read their comments, and I was not solicited, nor did, well, I did put the snowco.org parcel number for 1302 Broadway because it abuts 1301 Lombard. So I had put that down for any, with no words or anything, but as for anybody to look at who owns the 7-Eleven there now. So I gave a copy of the stuff that I read, but I took out everybody's names because they didn't ask to be put into this. So I don't know if, here, that's what I did. And so that's what I'm disclosing.
Okay, thank you. And yes, and you gave us a copy of that. We'll make sure that gets into the record as well. Councilmember Fosse?
So the question is like any oral conversations that we've had that have influenced our vote in any sort of way?
Correct.
Okay. I've had none other than the conversation I think that we had with.
City officials.
Yeah, Patterson, when he, yeah.
Yep, and those have been summarized in a memo that is also on the record, so
Okay,
thank you. Councilmember Schwab?
No.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll go to, I will officially open the public hearing. So Angie, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, we have one individual, Bob. If you could please come to the podium.
And also, if there's anyone here in the chambers that would speak to after giving an opportunity.
And please turn on the mic. Oh, actually, York will get that. Thank you. And please state your full name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Bob Wool, and I live on the north end on Lombard Avenue in the 1300 block. And I've been a resident of Everett since 1979, and I've lived in that same house on Lombard Avenue that entire time. So we have lived there since 1979, as I said. Our neighbors and us were affected by the serious problems surrounding the old Waits Motel for more than 30 years. However, it is undeniable that peace has returned to our neighborhood since the demolition of the motel. Now we are at the next step, which is the rezone of that property, and we urge you to please vote in favor of the rezone. How wonderful it would be to have owner-occupied townhouses with design standards that fit in with our historical neighborhood. We look forward to having new neighbors who are as invested in our community as we have been all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I've been.
Okay, is there anyone here in the chambers that wish to speak? Please approach the podium.
My name is Nancy Hecht, and I live at 1330 Lombard. I've been there, I'm the grandma of the block. I've been there for 50 years. And 30 years, we've been having bad problems. You guys were maybe in Everett and knew what we started out with. And here we are 30 years later, and like Bob said, we have some real peace in our neighborhood. I have never seen it so quiet. And I'm not criticizing. I don't see the police over there like I used to see. I used to see police going up and down our block all the time because there were so many calls and so much going on. But I don't want to repeat everything that Bob said, but I would really like to see townhomes there. Maybe retire people that are downsizing or first-time buyers. It'd be wonderful if we had homeowners that lived there, that were residents. I think that it could hold the 16 that people have talked about, but it could not hold a high-rise apartment house. That's why we need to have this rezone, and I think that rezone will save us from having that and be more friendly to the neighborhood because we are historic. And the 1300 block of Lombard, when you don't take in the property of Waits, I think is the only Donovan block left in the neighborhood that on both sides of the street, they're all Donovan homes. So another point that I wanted to make is the infrastructure is not there on 14th and Broadway and Lombard. Not only is it, the emergency room at the hospital, the patients going up there, the visitors going up there, but on the days that the food bank is open, I'm sure the police here can testify to the traffic jam, and it's really not safe making left-hand turn off of Broadway because you'll get caught in the middle of the intersection because you can't get through because of all the cars that are parking or waiting for parking spots. So I think that a friendly neighborhood would really appreciate this deed that we deserve, I believe, and I think that would make a much nicer entrance into the hospital, a much friendlier entrance to the hospital than having a high-rise. Thank you.
Thank you. anyone else here in the chambers who would like to speak on this issue? Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from council?
Do we need to move to close the public hearing first?
Before comments and questions, or how about just questions for the briefing?
I think we,
Okay,
okay, so I move to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Seconded.
okay. Motion and second's been, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Mayer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Zaremba?
Yes.
Councilmember Mobley?
Yes.
Councilmember Bassi?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes, okay, the public hearing has been closed. Now, are there any questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Fosse, thank you.
It's getting late.
Yep, it's a long night.
Just wanted to make a quick comment and clarification. I appreciate everyone that wrote in and all of the comments from our neighbors and the sincere love for our the elements of our community that are still amazingly historic, and the Donovan homes are very, very special. I just want to be very, very clear that any sentiments like that were expressed at the last council meeting were not necessarily a picking between the option of having something that fits within the community and having a high rise. Like that's not the debate. The debate was more about considering all options. Are we looking at senior housing? We have a lot of seniors that do need to downsize, so that looking at different zoning options wasn't really kind of put out there as a big discussion items. And I think where I ended up landing on that was for future things like this, as Councilmember Ryan had brought up, and I think other concurrences on, we hope that, maybe our committees would be a great place for future designations and kind of fleshing out some of those like ideas of what the possibilities are. But it wasn't a dichotomy between like high rise or this was, something we reject. It was more of like, what are all the options? And very well may have ended up landing here, but just wanted to provide a little clarity and my appreciation for showing up and taking the time to provide public comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui? I'll just go down the line here. Did you want to? Yeah, or comments? I'll just go down the line here.
No, I don't have any questions on zoning.
Okay, Councilmember Bader?
No questions on the zoning either.
Okay, Councilmember Ryan?
Thanks. No questions on zoning, but York, I was hoping you could kind of walk us through the next steps after this I know there's the resolution for declaring it surplus and I think can you walk us through some of the next decision points for council that we can expect?
I may not be the best for that. I will see if anybody emerges, but in the meantime, I will start doing my best. There's a property surplus and disposition resolution that should be on your next week's packet. That resolution will authorize staff to begin the process of, to consider the property surplus from City of Everett ownership and to begin the process of finding a suitable purchaser. There is a second document that would be a covenant and an agreement with the ultimate purchaser that would also come to the council at a later date when the process is concluded and there's a bidder or a buyer or something. The resolution will have the generalities of what the restrictions that I mentioned, the pitched roof, the 16 units, townhouse, and a recommendation for ownership at first purchase. Then the specifics in a very long legal document that's the kind of thing that you see when you're making a property sale would come to the council before the actual sale would be authorized. As I understand it, the surplus authorizes the process is conducted, a sale is begun, and then that comes back to the council for confirmation before it can proceed.
Great, thank you. I see next week's cover sheet and it's listed as consent. So I'd like to request that it's moved to not consent.
Do an action item, okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Well, just one bit of context, since senior housing was mentioned, and I know that's in some developments in our Silver Lake area that I've been involved in over years, some of the discussions. Residential elevators have progressed now. There are a number of technologies for about the cost of a car. Those things can be added to 2- and 3-story kinds of structures. So in this sense, technology may expand the usefulness of these townhouse-sized and scaled developments, and so you don't need to necessarily go to a high-rise. And with the cost of land anymore, you really can't do single-story ramblers anymore. So I'm hoping to see that kind of thing, and I think that's the kind of flexibility that that can exist here. So I'll be looking for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogel.
I'm wondering, and thank you for being here again, is the alley part of the rezone, that alley right there, or does it stay, and is the alley part of the rezone?
The rezone goes to the center line of, I believe, 13th and to the center line of Lombard. I believe it goes to the edge of the alley, which is where the MU mixed urban zone picks up. Either way, you can't develop in the alley, and so what zone it is doesn't make a difference. We try to make sure there's no slivers in there, but it shouldn't be a.
Okay, thank you. So if somebody wanted it, it would need to be vacated. So are we thinking about surplusing the alley or vacating the alley anytime soon? Is that gonna come up in
Nothing that I've
the
heard
soon
about.
future? Okay. Because, yeah, I noticed that the 7-Eleven right there has been sold in June. I don't know who the people are, but y'all might know. So I'm just curious if that might somehow in the future, somebody being really, I don't know the word right now, but awesome about land and noticing that both of those plots are going to, well, they're empty right now. And one has just been sold, so maybe they'll figure out a way to build even more. And then the property surplus and other word resolution and the covenant agreement, you said that those would be coming forward later, next week in the not consent agenda, right? So are those things pretty much fleshed out at this time?
I think the resolution is, yeah.
Okay, and then I think that's all. And just to reiterate, maybe it's not reiterating, December-ish is the time that the overall comp plan is decided upon, and no, that's wrong?
That was, we were working to get it out of the planning commission by the end of the year and to the council in the very beginning of the year. All of these elements are, some of them are going back to the planning commission again for more work. That is stretching it out. I think it would be a stretch to get it out of the planning commission by the end of the year, so we're adding a couple of weeks, couple of months.
And when is it due to whoever it's due to?
It is due the end of the year.
Oh,
to the
so we're gonna
state.
be late.
We're gonna be a little bit late.
What kind of bad things will happen to us?
In my assessment, there would not be bad things, and I can pull together some details on what that assessment is. It would be a failure to act challenge, which takes time, and by that time, to the Growth Management Hearings Board, and by the time that made it through, if someone were to make that challenge, we would be done with it. So I can
Okay.
provide more briefings on that. We are working as absolutely fast as we can, along with the boards and commissions supporting.
Okay, great, thank you. And so I guess this doesn't go hand in hand with that. I think that's all, and I hope that people go and read all the notes about all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. We wouldn't be the only city that doesn't get the.
Correct.
My understanding is that we're ahead of most people.
I know that we're doing really
doing
darn
good, yeah.
good on the comp plan,
Yeah.
and I totally commend all of y'all for all the work.
So kind of a question, comment. Currently, the estimation that area without this zoning will be significantly upscaled from what we're looking at right now.
In the periodic update, this particular parcel is has a draft zoning of MU 15, which would be 15 floors. The Donovan Historic District would not change. So
Okay.
the properties to the west and south would remain, well, they would be the middle housing. But we restricted the historic districts out of anything above that.
Okay, thank you. I guess one of the points I want to make is we're just not taking a highlighter to the map and saying this has to be this specific zone. There are other areas in the city that may need some specialization, and I think this is one of them. So I think this is a good little addition to a master plan. So I guess for this group and for those who might be watching, if there are some specific areas, especially the smaller ones, because they don't affect our larger numbers that we need to comply with, that this is good for us as council members to talk to our constituents in our neighborhoods and find out when the highlighter goes out on the map that they look and that there are some specialty areas that may need some adjustments. So I think this is a good adjustment for one of the zoning.
Really quick, may I?
Yes.
It really is really quick. Is this a historic, it doesn't have a historic overlay, does it? We just think of it as Donovan?
It does around, not the weights, not 1301 Lombard. South and west is a Everett Register Historic District,
Oh.
which is different than an overlay, but it is,
Oh.
has historic protections.
Okay.
Recognizes the Donovan homes and the consistent architectural themes there.
Okay, I would like to recognize that there are historic properties across Broadway on the other side. That's all.
Thank you. With no other questions, I entertain a motion.
Councilmember Bader will move the, adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map for 1301 Lombard as detailed in the council packet.
Item 7,
Seconded.
yes. Thank you. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
No?
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that. All right, so moving on to item number 8, third and final reading, Council Bill 2409-25, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Dorn Avenue Drainage Improvements Fund 336, Program 043. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved. So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, are there any questions? Councilmember Vogely?
Just a quick comment, when I was at the Transportation Advisory Committee and we were discussing this particular area of the city and this particular piece of information and also the traffic cameras, I just wanted to put out there that when and if there is an issue with all of the traffic with all of these things that are going on at Intercity and Dorn and Maryland and that area, if it's problematic for vehicles going through that intersection, even more so than it would be for just lame driving, the city can suspend the red light cameras while the work is going on, and I wanted to share that in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Okay, so item number 8, no further questions. We have a motion and second. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes, okay, item number 8, third and final reading, Council Bill 2409-26. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Maryland Avenue Drainage Improvements Fund 336, Program 044. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second made. Any questions?
Same comment.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes, okay, on to item number 10, third and final reading, Council Bill 2409-27, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Olympic Boulevard Fish Barrier in Pigeon Creek, Number 2, Fund 336, Program 045. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second's been made. Any questions, comments? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Spader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes, and with no further business, we'll see you 12:30 next Wednesday. Meeting adjourned.